Hi, good afternoon, everybody. I know you guys got some lunch, and we have an exciting panel here, so hopefully you won't sleep over your full stomach. Welcome, I'm Varsha Tagare, I'm with Intel Capital. I'm very excited to be here with really a pioneering panel, if you will, in the mobile TV area. I will do the introduction of these gentlemen, and they'll go through a 10-minute overview of what their view is and what the company does, and then we'll have lots of times for questions and answers. And given the size of the room and the number of the people, if you guys can just move to the front, so we can actually have a very cozy audience here and have a very interactive session, that'll be great. Or if you decide to stay put with your lunch, that's okay also. Starting to my right, we have Paul. Paul is the co-founder and COO of MobiTV. Paul has really been instrumental in launching MobiTV with the top 3 carriers in the US, and also securing the 20-channel lineup that we all are now used to seeing on Mobi. Next to Paul, we got David Bloom. David Bloom is the CEO of GoTV. David, I think, is one of the serial entrepreneurs at this table, I think associated with many different companies. Some of the other ones prior to GoTV included M-Forma. I guess some of you guys may be familiar with it. It's in the mobile gaming space. And also WUF Networks. Now, how do you pronounce it? Woof or Woof? Okay. Which is now part of Yahoo, powering the mobile music at Yahoo. Next to David, we have Jeremiah Zen. Jeremiah is the Senior Director of Wireless Products at MTV. He's really responsible for mobile products roadmap for all the 6 properties at Viacom, which includes MTV, VH1, CMT, Comedy Central, Spike, and Logo. Before that, he came from Ericsson. He was actually heading the service development at Ericsson Mobility World. So I think he has a very good perspective coming from technology into the content side. Next to Jeremiah, we have Glenn Schuster. Glenn is the Director of Partner Programming at the Handheld GPU division in NVIDIA. He's responsible for strategic partnerships for GoForce product line. And previous to his venture at NVIDIA, he was involved with Ubicom and 3DFX. And last but not least, we have Sanjay. Sanjay Reddy is the Senior Vice President of Business Development at Gemstar TV Guide. You guys probably know the company or the UI that we see every time we turn on the TV. Prior to Gemstar, he was a principal at the animation company. And before that, he served as Vice President at Solomon Smith Barney and Covad Communication. With that, if you guys can give an applause to our panelists, we can get started with Paul.
So thank you for having us. It's an honor to be here. I've known Varsha for a long time in the industry, so she's watched our company grow up together. And so I've got a couple slides here, and it's not really meant to be a sales presentation on MobiTV. I'll spare you that. But I wanted to go through and touch on it. I'll do a couple of highlights of what MobiTV is doing and what our background is, but more importantly, I want to focus on some of the issues in the industry today that we really see needing to drive the value chain and to grow the industry as a whole. And this is something that MobiTV takes our responsibility for the things that we can control, and then we really implore the rest of the industry to help build the marketplace together, because it really is a tremendous opportunity. As we've demonstrated, we've got over 1 million subscribers already. We're one of the largest MSOs, blah, 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 blah. But the reason I wanted to talk about the subscriber count, and if you look at this chart, this is really probably a chart that I showed Varsha when we were first starting MobiTV 5 or 6 years ago, and she said, "Yeah, right. That's a great looking chart, but I don't believe it." These are our real subscribers. So this is real subscriber growth that we're experiencing in the mobile TV space. And I'll talk about why I think some of these things are starting to kick into high gear now. And when we talk about the building blocks, what are the building blocks to create a successful mobile TV marketplace, not just for MobiTV, but for GoTV and MTV and everybody else at the table? There really are several things. Now, having had about 3 or 4 years of running a commercial service in the United States, we've really actually grown to understand what are the components that can, when they're all working together, can really fuel the industry. And so I wanted to kind of just do a quick overview of it. I won't spend too much time on it, but on the left side is really the content, and working with innovative companies like Viacom and their MTV properties, really getting out the content industry. You know, in the early days when we first launched MobiTV, it was a challenge to get anybody to pay any attention to this marketplace. And now, thankfully, I think we're seeing a lot more enthusiasm, but there's still a long way to go, where what consumers are looking for is they really want, you know, that high production value content that, you know, is so popular in the traditional TV space. And so there are a lot of rights issues and a lot of things that need to be overcome in order for that to happen. And so we appreciate all the efforts from our content partners to make that happen. The other thing is, when we move into all the different countries, you know, there's always, you know, the local culture dynamics that you have to take into consideration. And so MobiTV, having now launched in several countries around the world, has to take that into consideration and adapt our model. We also need the operators, of course. The operators, you know, some of them have been more aggressive than others. Others are still painfully lacking in sort of their sort of foresight into this space, but we're starting to see them come around. And where that starts is then they start investing in their network to really be able to accommodate this type of experience. And so we're starting to see in the United States the 3G networks being deployed, where if you haven't seen it, the TV experience on a 3G network is really incredible. And it's really come a long way from where we started. And then working with the handset manufacturers. You know, there's so many different types of handsets out there, and they're all different. It's not like the PC marketplace where you have, you know, pretty much two standards that you need to port to, and then, you know, you've got your bases covered. All the handsets are different, and it requires the handset manufacturers to really understand how hard it is for companies like MobiTV and GoTV and others to port from one phone to another when they're making all these changes, and if they're not fulfilling the specification of Java or Brew or whatever it is properly. And so we have a whole program at MobiTV called Mobi Enabled, where we try to, not just for our own benefit, of course there's a self-serving attribute to it, but for the rest of the industry, really help the handset manufacturers do a better job of implementing their Java or their Brew or whatever environment we're going to be building these applications in, to make sure that they're consistent and properly executed. And the carriers are also helping that. They're finally coming around to the point where now, you know, a lot of them have said, hey, you know, if MobiTV or GoTV or someone else's product, if these products don't work on your handset, we won't sell it. And that's really the kind of pressure we need, because in order for this industry to take off, it's painful where we see it. Where we've seen the highest acceleration in growth is when we have unilaterally 100% handset penetration. It can't be where you have one flagship phone that can do cool apps and the rest of them don't. It needs to be, people aren't, I mean, I think mobile TV is, you know, I'm probably the biggest advocate of MobiTV or mobile TV, but I don't think that it's the #1 driver for handset purchase. I realize that the Razr is a sexy phone and people want to have that phone because it looks good. And if it doesn't do TV well, they'll still buy that phone, you know? And that's a tragedy for companies like us if that becomes the #1 selling phone and it doesn't have a good implementation of Java, or it doesn't have good network connectivity, or all the other things that allow for, you know, the industry to really thrive. And then finally, understanding the marketplace and the consumers. So I think when all of these things work together, and I know it's a boring slide, but it's really important, the value chain, any one of these pieces are missing and things start to dissolve. And you really need to get everything working in harmony. And once you have that, the results are really incredible. Real quick, our focus, we've been focusing on quality and improving the experience at every step. And so I think we've demonstrated really incredible progress there. Today on a 3G network, on most of the 3G phones, we're really able to provide a killer TV experience. Around the world, we've got over 25 operators and, you know, 15 different countries or something. I mean, it's just been incredible the pace at which we've been deploying MobiTV and seeing the growth there. And we're also moving beyond phones. I mean, we're all about convergence these days, where the phone is really acting more like a computer. The computer is acting more like a phone. I mean, the whole thing, we really see it converging. Our attitude is we want to deliver TV and media to over every network, every device, every content type through every geography. And that sounds ambitious, and granted it is, and we probably won't do every. But our attitude is really, we're moving into the PDA space. We've got some great products there. We're also moving into the laptop space. We're going to be announcing some relationships with broadband providers. I mean, we really see a convergence of people wanting to access their content across multiple different devices. And we think that's just a massive opportunity that we continue to pursue. A lot of people talk about what networks are going to be delivering TV. And our attitude is, well, it's not going to be any one single network, just like it isn't today. I mean, we deliver over 1X, EVDO, GPRS, Edge, UMTS. They all work together. And we don't see this as is it going to be 3G or is it going to be broadcast? We actually see it as, it's going to be both. I mean, both are going to live together, and the marketplace is big enough for both. And this is a chart that I created, and it's probably biased in a little bit of the direction that we really feel strongly about. But the way I see it is, when we first launched, the only thing really we could do was a unicast solution over really, very immature 2.5G networks. And we were able to do it. The experience wasn't that great, but we were able to get it done and get it out to a lot of phones. And that's what sort of heated up the marketplace. But as we've seen the 3G networks get deployed, then we start really picking up some steam. Later this year, or early in 2007, we'll start to see dual mode broadcast and unicast working together. And MediaFlow will be announcing their launch either fourth quarter or first quarter, not sure when. And we see that sort of growing the entire pie. That's going to just kind of increase awareness, increase the marketplace as a whole. And so we're excited about that and looking forward to it. And we've even been testing a lot of the broadcast solutions in our lab in Emeryville. But what we really see as the long term, what we're calling beyond broadcast, is what we call the holy grail for mobile television. If you look at the traditional television space, broadcast is sort of the old-fashioned technology for delivering TV. And where the rest of the television industry is really going towards a broadband unicast delivery system. And that's what WiMAX enables for mobile. And so we're very excited about WiMAX. We've made some announcements recently. Sprint made their announcement about how they're supporting WiMAX. It's a big initiative for us, and so we're building out WiMAX mobile TV laboratory, and we'll be pioneering a subgroup within the WiMAX forum on mobile television. So you'll see more from us there. And then, the truth is, whether it's WiMAX or 4G or 3G or broadcast, the truth is they're all going to work together, and that's another area of focus for our company. And I implore the rest of the industry to also be thinking this way. Interoperability between networks, whether it's on the handset or on the network side, it's going to be key, because the goal for us is to hide that complexity to the subscriber. Because as soon as subscribers start thinking, well, I got to close this app and open up another app to get a broadcast, and then I can't get the broadcast signal, so then I got to go to this link or whatever, it's just going to kill the industry. And so we have to all work together to make sure that we're providing easy-to-use experiences for subscribers that mask and hide the complexities of the network. And finally, in closing, hopefully I haven't used too much more than my 10 minutes. Unicast and in-band multicast solutions will allow for interactivity, all the voting and polling and commerce and all these dreams that we've been talking about. They're starting to be realized now. We've got them. They're working on our application. We've got full EPG channel guide, all of those great things. And I think the marketplace is going to continue to evolve, and with these stronger, better, faster networks and more efficient networks, it's just going to keep on growing. So Thank you.
In case you haven't noticed, we're doing a little experiment to see whose laptop battery ignites on fire first. Yeah. Bingo. I think everybody on the panel wants to thank Paul for taking all the hard, boring subjects. But I want to ditto or second everything he said. We're still very nascent in the user experience. We're nascent in developing a food chain that's efficient. Everybody knows what they get paid. Everybody understands their role. That's all still getting very worked out as we go through this. And I think we have a lot of user benefit ahead of us as we continue to work that out. GoTV is a content company. We're focused entirely on that user experience that is mobile television, and we're not sure exactly what that is. We're trying to ask questions and figure it out. So I'm going to go through just our current version of how we address a user experience. And we're not so much focused on the MSO model of aggregating a bunch of live TV channels. That's an important business case. That's an important use case. There's nothing that's going to substitute for being able to tune into something during current events or a sporting event. But GoTV is focused more on an on-demand interactive model, and that's the user experience we're trying to uncover, expose, if you will. So we have a product that takes some of the TV properties, many of the same great brands that Moby works with and other people work with, and we try and create on-demand mobile versions, whatever that means. Sometimes they're speed episodes, or sometimes they're just more interactive, but we try and make them packaged so they're on demand, so you can get more to what you care about if you've got just a few minutes in the day. And so we have a product called GoTV Super Channel, which is a lot of different branded content. But more of our focus is around an immersive lifestyle, a touch point, if you will, a reason that you wear the clothes you wear, you put the bumper sticker on your car, you wear a hat, and even you wear a hat in a specific way. Hip-hop hits youth, it hits music, and it hits urban. So it's a great property, as mobile content has proven to initially find those early pioneers, those early consumers of mobile content. And our channel, called Hip Hop Official, is more than just music videos. It certainly has to be music videos. If you can't see the latest and greatest music video of your favorite hip hop artist, you're going to be quite disappointed. But it's also interviews, backstage access. We can cover live events within this channel. It's supposed to be everything you need to maintain your hip hop lifestyle in a mobile world. And we've seen tremendous growth in this particular channel. This is a premium channel that's standalone that you subscribe to separately. And that's really the focus of GoTV's model. We have the same kind of channel around alternative rock and roll. Now we're talking about Killers and Green Day and Fall Out Boys and Nickelback, your favorite groups, backstage access, retrospects, whatever happened to bands that you haven't heard about in a few years. We bring these artists into our own studios, we film them, doing interviews, and just basically giving that subscriber total access to a lifestyle that they're living and extending within their social communities. This really is social fabric for kids, and we want to make sure that they see it so immersive that it's something they want to carry on their phone with them all the time, so they can stay up to speed and really start sharing it and start tapping the viral nature of this medium. We also have a product that's probably way ahead of its time at this point in terms of demographics, but it's targeted to women. It's called Diva, and it has a lot of branded content, soap updates, speed episodes of Lost and Alias and Desperate Housewives, Ellen DeGeneres comedy. It's got fashion tips. We have literally a somewhat of a mobile shopping network built into this, where we go out and find fashion steals from the various websites. We find viral videos that have been going around the web, so you don't have to go look for them, and we produce them and package them up so you can get access to them every day. And it's attempting to find that also, again, that immersive lifestyle that somebody says, you know, this enhances my life and enhances my social fabric of the people I talk to and interact with every day. Finally, a model that doesn't really fit the immersive lifestyle, but certainly is a great property for mobile, is comedy. I mean, the ability to just add a laugh to your day. You've got a few minutes, you don't know when that's going to be presented to you, and the first thing you want to do is go find something funny. And so we use a lot of brands that people know are funny, Jimmy Kimmel, as well as stand-up comedy from the Improv. But we have some originally produced content that we have created in our own studios in Los Angeles that we produce every day. Something called Why Today Sucked, which is a satirical look at the news every day. And products like Ask a Ninja, which I think you're seeing in a very broad set of deployments right now on broadband. It's very popular stuff on YouTube. It's getting lots of play on the radio. And it's a property we've been developing mobile for several months now. And finally, there's lots of great companies bringing you sports highlights, sports statistics. We're very focused on the fantasy because that's more the immersive lifestyle, the people that have to have access to stats specific to their fantasy teams. So you can download your team, you can interact, make trades, you can see video highlights of all your players, you can actually run your statistics against the league algorithm that scores you and tells you where you stand in your league. And you've got all that from the access at a golf course on Sunday afternoon when you're not watching the football teams. So those are the kind of properties we're focused on, trying to find what this ultimate mobile experience is going to look like. And it's a lot of video and rich media, but it's also a lot of interaction and participation on the end user's part. Oh, finally, I guess we launched something about a month ago that got a lot of press. It had a couple firsts in it. It was a reality TV show, an urban makeover starring Vida Guerrera. And this is a product that we filmed 32-minute episodes, very much an experiment, and we launched it on Sprint, I guess about the second week in June. And we had 22 brands integrated into this show, which is another telltale sign of how badly advertisers want to interact with this medium and with the subscribers so directly and so much on an interactive basis. But we don't know that this is a medium for any of the traditional advertising we see on the web or TV set. In this case, this was highly entertaining, and the brands were part of the story and part of the progression of the episodes. So Print, which is still available today on your Sprint phone, and you can have all the episodes to go back and catch up on them, is well into its 30-episode airing.
So I have a short video to show, and Sanjay's helping me out with this. But while he's getting set up, I just want to give a few comments about what you're going to see. As Paul talked about earlier, we really understand our place being MTV Networks in the mobile video ecosystem, and we really focus on creating great content. That's what we're doing end to end. Compared to most other media companies, we're really investing a lot in creating made-for-mobile content or content that's specifically attuned to mobile, developing the technology to take it from here to there, and working on relationships with Tier 1 and Tier 2 carriers to really have pervasive distribution. Anyone who has a phone can access any MTV Networks channels, which include MTV, VH1, Comedy Central, CMT, Spike, and Logo. So what do you need to do to create a content development studio? I mean, it means for us changing our whole development process. In the past, the way that we created shows was we really literally had a team that just thought in 13-episode increments. And today, we have people who start at the beginning of the development process that are thinking about broadband, are thinking about wireless, and are thinking about broadcast. So they're not thinking about that 13-episode season. They're really thinking about how they can push people from broadcast to broadband to wireless, do different things that use the medium to its fullest. And they're creating content that's made for mobile. And it's not just a press release. We're actually doing this today. So that means, one, re-engineering our development process and our programming process, and then two, having dedicated teams that understand wireless. We have 50 folks now in New York who just think about mobile and who are developing content. So
should be coming on this thing.
Okay, let me just say one other thing. Well, I'll
Plenty of ribbon beads coming your way on Dingo 8 Mile Video. I'm Dingo, and this devourable little, rather adorable little co-host is Baby.
And if you really don't like someone, if you really hate someone, bring them to a murder mystery.
When the lights go out, murder them for real. I mean, just start stabbing them. A lot of anger tonight, guys. Sorry. A lot of anger.
So, do you like math?
No.
I like math.
That's because you're a nerd.
Do you like this?
It's cool.
No, it's a DVD.
It's playing on
Hey. Sorry, Jerry. Why don't I just keep on talking? Yeah.
And we'll keep working on it. Is there another computer we want to try? I don't have a DVD driver on mine.
Yeah, you do.
So, let me just continue what I was saying. There's one part of this process, and that means creating the content and having a production studio that understands mobile and that's really reacting to information we're getting from carriers, information that we're getting from consumers, and creating better product. The other part that we don't talk about much at conferences like this, but is the headache that MTV deals with, is rights issues, so rights and clearances. We do shows like I Love the 80s that have teams of hundreds, literally hundreds of people who do all the rights clearances for these shows. And that's the other big effort that we have in working with labels, in working with rights owners, in creating shows for mobile and figuring out who should get what in the whole ecosystem, how people should be paid for the content that they're helping create and that we're making money on today in mobile. So those two parts of the piece are really, really important to us. That's where we've spent our resources. This is a service that makes money for us today. I mean, it's a nascent industry from the technology perspective and the fact that 1 to 2% of people out there can actually watch video on their phone, but it's not in terms of us making cash and revenue from this service, and we see a lot of opportunity for growth going forward. The last thing I'll just mention is that because we have so far to go to get to a world where everybody can look at content on their mobile phone today, understands how to get to mobile video, understands what they're going to get when they watch mobile video, one of the big efforts that we have in place is using our channels to market mobile video and market that offering, both on carriers, but in Europe we're doing a lot of direct-to-consumer marketing, saying you can watch this show, like at the end of Laguna Beach we'll say, here, you've seen Laguna Beach, the show, you can go to the after show on your mobile phone, here's how to get there. And it's a really important piece because people have to take that first step to see mobile video on their phone before they start coming back to it and using it habitually. And the whole industry as a whole needs to get people understanding what mobile video is and how they can work with it.
Jennifer, sorry, it's not going to work. So.
No. Okay, that's fine.
So I'm Glenn Schuster. I'm from NVIDIA. I love being on a panel with all these content guys. We're in the guts of these devices. So we build graphics, audio, and video processors that go into cell phones, etc. As a company, we're better known for our desktop and laptop PC products. We're in the handheld division, so we're working on mobile devices. The reason I love being on a panel with all these content guys is none of the stuff that we do matters if there's not great content. NVIDIA has always focused on the consumer experience. Fundamentally, the company started as a 3D gaming company, providing hardware engines for 3D gaming and PCs. If the consumer could not tell the difference out of the hardware that we put into these things, then we failed. So content has been key from the start. When we start talking about video, And now my machine's locked up, which is glorious. There we go. When we start talking about video, consumers are already there, right? TiVo's been out for, I don't know, 5-6 years now. iPod video shipped something like 30 million downloads. 30 million downloads of video. So this is already happening on mobile devices. The experience is key. Making sure that we deliver a consumer experience that matches their existing consumer experiences, right? It's not like video just got invented in the consumer space. It's been out there for many, many, many years. So poor quality, short battery life, jerky pictures, very low frame rates, those are all things that will slow the adoption of video in the mobile space. Making sure that we deliver solutions both in the network, in the devices, in the content that provide a similar quality experience to what they have in their living rooms today is critical. So one of the answers that we have clearly on the device side is hardware acceleration. We provide a number of acceleration blocks specifically for audio and video that provide a living room-like experience for the consumer. So not only taking our tens of watts below the circuit breaker desktop parts and providing performance in a mobile solution that has to run in an envelope that's measured in 100 to 200 milliwatts, 3 orders of magnitude lower power than what we run in our desktop parts. Driving more hours. So we have shipping phones that outperform an iPod by over 2x on being able to run on a battery twice as long, showing video nonstop. Part of this is driven by, we're very focused on the cell phone part of the space, so we are in portable media players, we are in handheld game consoles, we're even in some nav systems. But by focusing on phones, at the end of your entertainment experience on your phone, you get to work and you still got to be able to make phone calls. So focusing on low power and saving time for talk time is absolutely critical in our space. Being able to drive the compelling experience is what ends up driving revenue for everybody in the value chain. It's how we get paid on the device side, it's how our OEMs get paid on the device side, it's how the operators end up getting paid. Making sure that there's a high quality consumer experience is critical. So this is a HDNet clip, and fundamentally what you're seeing is a 2 megabit video clip. And why did I pick this clip? Fundamentally because this is what consumers get off of first generation TiVo box. What they get off of a DVD is much higher quality than this. So this is VGA resolution, and I think you can go lower res on something that you hold much closer than you have in your living room. But what you're talking about is frame rates that are 24 to 30 frames a second, that are at resolutions that are reasonable for the devices that you're holding and the distance you are from the screen. So why is it really happening now? What has changed this year that mobile video is really taking off at this dramatic rate that it hasn't been around in previous years? And it's a number of things. Part of it is just the display technology is finally there, right? You can get a lot of good mobile phones now with QVGA displays. You're now to resolutions that you can see a video clearly on your handheld and be able to see things. On portable media players, they're going VGA and XGA displays. Slightly larger because they got a larger form factor, but much more TV-like in resolution. The content models are in place. iTunes, Zune, YouTube, both the broadcast standards, they're all there now. They all have existing models in place and they're all rolling out quickly. Broadcast and broadband are becoming available. Paul talked a lot about this. Video in the computing space did not take off. If you think back in the PC era of 56K modems, it did not take off in dial-up, right? You needed the added bandwidth of broadband to do good video. So sites like YouTube didn't exist back in the dial-up era. You could barely do pictures on your PC in the dial-up era. Broadband enables a lot of these technologies. The broadcast mobile TV technologies enable these. Japan, Korea, Italy, they're all broadcasting live today. There's a lot of broadcast trials underway in many other places, including the US. This is, I don't know how many of you are from the cell phone industry, but the US always lags everywhere else by 2 or 3 years in the cell phone industry. I have no idea why. It drives me nuts. But in mobile TV, we're at the forefront. Companies like Modeo are in field trials. There are several other companies that are working on solutions for this year as well. HSDPA is rolling out. Singular announced their HSDPA service this year. WiMAX is rolling out. So we're starting to see real broadband networks for mobile devices. And what's the difference? Why can't I just slap 802.11 into these mobile devices and let it rip? And that's because it's power. If you run very high power technologies in a mobile device, you just don't get the time frame, right? You can't watch a full couple episodes of TV or a full-length movie and be able to use the device anymore. The battery just dies way too fast. Hardware enablement. We're not the only company doing this. This is a little bit of an NVIDIA pitch, but there are lots of companies out there that compete with us on the hardware enablement side. Making sure that the consumer experience is there is really key. Some of the phones that we're in, Samsung has a line of phones. They also have a DVB-H phone, the P910. This is specifically shipping in Italy. We've got most of Motorola's 3G lineup, Kyocera in Japan, HTC's for Seer, which is going to be the Modeo DVB-H phone. So a number of devices, so we know a little bit about what we're talking about. Relative to the rest of the industry, we're still a pretty small player. But we focus on the consumer experience and making sure that we deliver what consumers want, raising expectations in the industry and delivering compelling entertainment. And we call it entertainment without limits. And that's the idea of being able to take it with you everywhere. A lot of people talk about being able to take it with you anywhere, but the one device that you have with you all the time, everywhere you go, is your mobile phone. Your iPod, I mean, probably half of you in the room have an iPod, and I'd be surprised if more than 10% of you had it with you right now. The phone, I bet every one of you've got a phone. So being able to take it with you everywhere you go and have that downtime entertainment experience, whether you're standing in line and want 15 minutes or whether you're riding the 2-hour train to work, and be able to make phone calls at the end of the day. And that's all I got. Thank you.
Great, it works. Well, actually, I don't have my phone on me today, and my BlackBerry, the lack of it is killing me. Anyway, I'm Sanjay Reddy. I head up business development at Jumpstart TV Guide, and just wanted to, I'll try and blow through these slides as quickly as possible. So this is not really a, here's Jumpstart TV Guide. I think the notion and sort of the concept here is to say, we do have a cross-platform business, and a lot of the lessons we've learned on sort of what we'll call traditional platforms, we believe are still applicable to the mobile platform. So our presence is on print with a magazine, with the channel, fully distributed analog channel. We distribute guides, the IPG, both on digital recorders and televisions, as well as on sort of the cable and satellite platform. And so that's more of our sort of, if you want to call it the traditional guidance platforms. Subsequently, we've also got tvguide.com, which is our online presence, our VOD product, which is TV Guide Spot, and then finally, the mobile platform. The key here is that, we feel that people have required guidance on all these platforms and will require guidance similarly on the mobile platform. And then one other element of that is we believe ultimately, everyone talks about it, but I think our presence on these platforms today allows us to actually see how powerful a cross-platform experience can really be. So our mobile platform, we actually, I'm not going to say got dragged into it, but we had a lot of success with our product in Japan, and I'll get to it in a second, and as a result, we've sort of deployed that in the United States. So, deployed G-Guide Mobile in Japan, and in 2005, WAP app deployed in the United States. This year, we've got, we'll call it TV Guide Mobile 2.0, just sounds cooler, launched on handsets across major carriers domestically. And we are in active deployment to look at the next generation, which is what's on mobile, so the guide to mobile video itself. Just a sampling of some of our licensed partners, both domestically and internationally, and that's across both the application side as well as the content side. So Japan. We have a joint venture with Dentsu in Japan, and that's a long-standing joint venture based on our partnership in the CE business. So Dentsu has helped us monetize advertising on our IPGs that are deployed on digital televisions and recorders. So came to us, we launched G-Guide Mobile, which is effectively an EPG for mobile devices, free to consumer on DOCOMO 100%. This is to I think an earlier point I think Paul made, talking about wanting it deployed across all phones. As a result, phenomenal success. Greater than 7 million actual registered and active users out of a base of about 15. It's subsequently being licensed to KDDI and Vodafone, which the latter will be rolled out in October of this year. Some of the key takeaways from here, obviously strong penetration, extremely high usage and frequency, so average of 12 times a month, used daily by 10% of the registered user base. Great demos, obviously people, heavy media consumers, and the key here is to say, this is, these consumers, they like TV, they like what we provide in terms of enabling them to enjoy television. One other point as far as the advertiser, it obviously has not caught on in the US, but phenomenal success with selling out the ad inventory on this application. And obviously free to consumer, this is the way to monetize it. And the ad revenue in a gross amount is actually pretty substantial, north of it's 8 digits in millions of dollars. So our current Mobile 2.0, again, I'm not going to bore you with a lot of the features, but effectively it's kind of what you're used to, familiar with, somewhat optimized for the mobile screen. Television program reminders, 14 days listings, forward to friend, recommendations, news, etc. In the last, the right-hand most screenshot you're going to see is the remote scheduling feature, again, which we believe we can deliver given our presence on multiple platforms and our relationships with the individual service providers that sort of are, I'm not going to say gatekeepers, but the value chain, along the value chain, key components. So the market trends, we look at the EPG, and we'll see some screenshots later, EPG being unified, high EPG usage. So in cable we see 5 to 10% of the time spent is within that EPG environment, and we believe with the shorter content length on mobile that potentially could be larger. EPG is an embedded app, operator control of EPG, and finally cross-platform services. So the implications, deliver an end-to-end solution, mass market, multi-device, multi-platform. 3.0, what's on mobile? It's really, it's sort of focused on the mobile video experience to come to sort of what we're talking about. Here are some examples of the UI that we're working on and some of the functionality. So if you look at the left-hand quadrant, top quadrant, it's a combination of linear and VOD. If you look on the bottom, you'll see channel number 6, HBO. That's HBO Mobile On Demand. You go to the quadrant on the right, it's effectively telescoping. If you click on the HBO On Demand, the choice is under that particular content lineup. The mini guide allows you, just like on television, the ability to watch video while still having the ability to scroll through your channel guide on the bottom, and then of course getting further information on a selected program. Another part, obviously, to talk to the shorter length of mobile video. If you can see on the left-hand side, the ability to get guidance around these 6 to 8 minute pieces of content for a specific channel. The VOD library also can highlight the clip lengths on the right-hand side. And then finally, if you look at where this evolves, the potential, of course, a bit, for those of you with perfect eyesight, in my opinion, the Mosaic application. So finally, just to come around, just to let you know that we are also sort of a content company, not in the traditional sense of an MTV, but we do provide content around to sort of guide you about what's on TV or what's on video, what to watch. So to that we're creating 30 plus mobisodes a week, 100 plus minutes original content to inform, entertain, and guide. So it's a combination of original content for the web as well as repurposed or sort of modified and specifically tailored for the mobile platforms. Content from our channel. We have a studio in Hollywood. From our VOD product and sort of allowing for you to consume content and get guidance at the same time on the mobile platform.
I think we got a great overview from all of these guys regarding the state of the industry as they view it and how they are addressing it. I'm going to go back to Paul's original comment when Paul and I met 4 years ago about mobile TV taking off in the US. Yes, we disagreed at the time, Paul, but there was a very interesting number that came out yesterday, and I think that took me by surprise, and I would like to see your reaction to it. They ranked the top 10 carriers worldwide in terms of total wireless data revenue for the first half of 2006. And guess how many of the US carriers made that list? This is a global list of carriers ranked in terms of only the wireless data revenue for the first half. Any guesses? 1? 2? Anybody for 2?
0.
Okay, you are all wrong. I'm sorry. 3 carriers from the US made that list. And they were ranked in, I think, number 5, 6, and 7. And it was Verizon, Singular, and Sprint. So I think we are really at a break point here about being behind the rest of the world till about a year ago to really breaking out in this category. The other interesting data point was that Verizon crossed $1 billion in data revenue last quarter. So I think we are definitely at this tipping point, which I agree with Paul now. I wish I had agreed with him 4 years ago, that we are definitely at the start of an industry in the US and not being behind the rest of the world. So with that, I guess the conflicting data point is on mobile video, which is there are only 7 million users in the US today paying for any kind of mobile video content. And obviously Mobi has 1 million of them, and there are 6 million on the rest of the carriers. So I think the key question is, now that we are here being ranked in the top 10 carriers and have this base of 7 million users, how do we scale? How do we really go to the next point of really scaling it to at least a reasonable percentage of the total 200 million subscriber base that we have in the US? So I'm going to use that as the first set of questions for the panel. Please feel free, even during this discussion, to chime in, or if you have questions, let's make it very interactive. I don't think we get a brain power like this panel, all the time at this conference. So my first question to you guys is that we have the basic plumbing. The NVIDIA guys have done the great work of getting the handsets, having all the horsepower you need. We got MTV excited about putting people around it. We got David actually creating, made for mobile content, and then GoTV putting in the live TV around it, and then Sanjay obviously coming in from a UI standpoint. What do you guys think are the top 2 things that we need to resolve in the next year? Let's not talk about the next 5 years. What do you think are the top 2 things that the industry needs to resolve to get to the next stage? Paul?
Let's see. Just off the bat, I would say handset compatibility is probably number 1 for us, and number 2 is probably and when I say handset compatibility, I don't mean just compatibility, but performance with real high-end chips and being able to process the video and doing H.264, and then probably the networks, the continuing rollout of the next generation networks. Those are the 2 biggest things. Although I could lump those 2 together and do one more. Which would be, I still think we have an awareness issue in the United States where, Sprint is probably, in my opinion, one of the front runners in this space, but still, it doesn't exist in most of their marketing and advertising. So I think we need more awareness, and that'll be driven when all the carriers are all marketing the services. And we're starting to see a glimpse of that, but it's coming slower than I'd like.
On the network side, you think that the 2.5G, 3G networks are not enough, or can you elaborate more on that?
I think the 2.5G networks were barely enough. I think the 3G networks are very create a very compelling experience. So I'm looking for broader rollout of the 3G networks and more handsets, because right now, I mean, except for Verizon, they're relatively new networks. I mean, Singular's just launched theirs, and they're only in a few markets so far. Sprint's not even nationwide yet, so but it's coming, and the 3G experience is really strong.
Okay, David.
Well, I guess I got to throw a little cold water on all this. There's no way there's 7 million real video users in the U.S. Paul and I both counted them independently, and we came up with lower numbers, but we can't.
and you're talking about people who are subscribed to a service, but maybe not using it 1 to 2 times per month.
Active video users.
Well, one of the things that's occurred in the industry is like with VCAS, there may be several million VCAS subscribers, and there's video in VCAS, so you could qualify that. Yeah, and Sprint does the same thing. They've renamed, and I think that's great for the industry because it really helps propel the subscriber numbers. But the number of people using is still probably smaller than that.
Very much so.
Yeah.
But that's okay because we're getting there. So my answer is a modification of Paul's first one, which is those handsets got to be under $100 because they don't really reach a mass market appeal unless they can be put on a 2-year rate plan increase, and you can go out the door for $29.95 with a new video handset. So we need those handsets. We need that user experience. 2.5G is great until you see 3G, and then you realize that's really not the video experience you're looking for. If you're especially watching music videos or something else that's quite popular, those don't render really well at lower frame rates, I don't think, because people's expectations are much higher than that. So we need sub $100 handsets, that's for sure. I used to complain about this in mobile gaming all the time, and I'm still complaining about it. Really billing models are very limited in terms of how we can package and create value-added services for subscribers with the carrier's participation. They have all kinds of limitations still today on whether they can offer standalone premium channels, invoke SMS, premium billing triggers. There's still a lot of billing issues that prevent us from packaging these products and services in the way the subscriber wants to acquire them. So that's an age-old problem that we're all getting better at.
We have a question. Can you please speak up a little bit?
Yeah. It's Mark Edwards from Fuel Industries, also a gaming company. But to what extent are the carriers responsible for the relatively low uptake? I mean, they seem to view themselves as gatekeepers as opposed to a pipe, and it seems to me it's a little bit counterproductive, the strategy that they're pursuing, this level of control. Really, isn't it? What are they selling? They're selling bandwidth or data transfer. Do you think they'd want to open up wide?
This is kind of like being in debate school, and I can take either side of that debate and argue it vehemently, but if I'm going to take the carrier side, they pay billions of dollars for these networks. This is not an open network, and when content services are offered on those networks that don't perform well, they get a customer service call. And this has happened continually over the last 18 months as they have, in fact, opened up the network to mobile content players who download ringtones that don't work on the phone or offer services that don't meet a quality standard, and they're the ones that take the customer service. Now, a lot of that is a guise to make sure that they do manage these customer relationships and maintain them. So, your best effort is to work with the carriers and create the kind of dependency you can to get straight to the subscriber with the carrier's full support. And I mean, that's the way you got to navigate it. That's North America. All bets are off in other markets.
So, David, you don't think we'll have a direct-to-consumer model for video or any of these services in the U.S.?
Well, I think we will, and it'll be integrated with Bill on Behalf Of, and it'll be certified and endorsed by the carrier, and if it misbehaves, it'll be shut down. And I can understand that.
Yeah,
The other missing
it won't
piece.
be a wide open off portal.
The other missing piece is the carriers massively subsidize the handsets. And one of the ways, especially since the voice market has been so bloody over the last few years, that the carriers recoup that investment is by offering added services, data services, content, ringtones, etc. They're not making a ton of money on voice minutes, and they got to pay back that $150 for the phone.
David, did you have any other comment, or should we go to Jeremy?
No.
So David and Paul sort of stole my fire by sitting on that side of the audience. Poor Sanjay at the end of this, but I guess I can't say great content because I'm from a content provider and disqualified there. So I just want to add on to two separate things that Paul and David mentioned. One is really awareness. I mean, when you see those 7 million subscriber numbers, what's hidden in there are a huge amount of people, one, that are churning off the service. So we're subscribing to the service because it sounds interesting and then never use it and say, why am I paying for this? And two, people who are subscribed who aren't using this. Literally, my great aunt is a VCast subscriber, and I don't know how they got her subscribed to the store. Maybe they said they were Golden Girls or Murder, She Wrote on your phone. But she subscribed to the service. That phone sits in her glove compartment. She has no idea that she's subscribed. So how do we get people like her, maybe she's a lost cause, but maybe somebody younger, to use this service? And that's really, one, by helping market the services. So just like we did with SMS, having these big campaigns that are part of TV or part of radio, and some of that would be done by the carriers, and some of that would be done by media companies like MTV. And then second, really being able to provide integration into video services. What I'd love to be able to do today, I gave the Laguna example before. We do a Laguna Beach after show for every Laguna episode. What I'd love to be able to do is say text to XYZ at XYZ, be able to push a link to the user, they can click on that and watch that clip directly, and then they're in the video service. And I can't do that today as a media company. What I have to do today as a media company is say to them, are you on Verizon? All right, if you're on Verizon, you go into Get It Now, Get Pix and Flicks, Get Video, and literally find their way down this chain. And I'm amazed by the people who find our services because it's really hard to find. I mean, these are kids who are sitting around who are bored, their dad's watching TV, their sister's on the computer, they have a phone, and it's the only thing that they can do, and they click around and they find these things. So awareness is super important, and we need to figure out a way that people find these services. And then second, I just want to second or third or wherever we are with the handset pricing issue, because when, as we're providing content to most of the tier 1 carriers, we've really seen usage take off when there's a sub $100 handset. That's all that matters, literally. And that needs to happen on all networks, and let's hope at some point it could be a totally subsidized handsets. I mean, it needs to be at that level for it to really be pervasive.
So, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, please ask.
Yeah, I have a question for Paul.
Please say your name and
David Spark, I'm a journalist, eWeek and the Quake radio here in town. Paul, you're probably definitely a leader right now on TV with videos. You guys have established yourself, but there's a lot of players coming out there that are just testing, they haven't fully released. My question is, what is it that you're going to have to do to maintain your leadership? You've got carrier deals, you've got content deals. How long do those last? Because I've talked to the carriers before, and they're constantly looking at other technology. How are you guys going to essentially keep your position when you're kind of really the only player in town at this point?
So that's a great question, and one of the things about our company that I think, this may seem like kind of a non-specific answer to your question, but the truth is we don't take anything for granted. And so, the last thing our company is going to do is rest on our laurels, and we don't even see ourselves as a leader in the space. I mean, it's nice, and I appreciate that, but it's not the way we approach the space. We look at every day we need to justify our existence in this space, and if we stop adding value, then we'll be replaced. There's no question about that. And it may get harder and harder to replace us because we're more entrenched or more in depth, or the hooks are in the carrier or whatever. But that's not what we're relying on. We're relying on consistent R&D investment and continuing to be the best at delivering mobile television and creating the best experiences for the carriers and allowing those carriers to differentiate themselves and really own their own experience. I mean, we don't even, I mean, Moby TV is sort of secondary now to Sprint TV and Access TV and Orange TV and 3TV. All the carriers that we work with, they all want to do their own branded product, and so we're helping them fulfill their dreams there. And the truth is that, you know, even today, with all the new companies in the space, we're still ahead of most of them.
But in about a year's time, there's going to be probably 4 or 5 major players out there that are going to go after you and mean that you're white boxing. Sprint TV or Verizon or any of the video players could continue to white box, but with a completely different engine behind it.
So first of all, I want to make one just really strong point that is just, I live and breathe every day, and big does not mean better. So there may be some big players, and I say bring them on. We're ready to take them on. We are much faster, much more innovative, with better people on staff. We work more, we're not a bureaucracy. So, you know, Qualcomm is investing really heavily into a network, and I'm sure that's one of the ones that you're referencing. And to be honest, you know, I used to be more worried about them than I am today. Today, you know, I think they'll exist. I think they'll probably have some market share, but I'm happy to share it with them, and I don't think they're going to take over our business. And you can see by the announcement from Sprint, I mean, they're not moving in that direction. So, you know, the truth is, I think time will tell, and, you know, we're not resting on our laurels, but, you know, we have pretty good traction, we have great relationships, and we have really, really kick-ass technology that, you know, is going to keep us there.
Well, thanks for the summary on that. Let's move on to Sanjay. Since we don't have a carrier here to help answer the handset subsidy question, Sanjay, can you help with finding or one-click video? Can your company do anything, or you know of techniques that you've used in the past on other platforms that will solve this user interface problem?
Well, first of all, I do want to answer that last question, which I think one of the things that will help mobile video is a really good guide. I'm sorry, just being self-serving there. I think to answer your question, is there something? Sure. I mean, I think one-click might be the nirvana, especially with the screen limitation. But I think part of that also is sort of dependent on the environment and sort of the parameters that the carriers also provide. But could it be there? Sure. I think that's nirvana. Is it going to be there tomorrow? No, absolutely not. I think as the mobile experience sort of morphs, consumers are going to demand that experience, and it's just a natural progression that it'll get there. How soon? Your guess is as good as mine.
David, this is idea for your next company, if you start one and after your 21st startup to go after the.
Well, we're already there. So this is the issue of discovery on a phone, and so I'm involved with a company called Medio Systems, which is a mobile search company, but it's really about discovery and merchandising. So the notion that you have to manage yourself through a bunch of menus that are organized differently by the handset carrier, or the handset manufacturer, or the carrier, or the content provider, creates one opportunity for any of those people to create a better metaphor, but also creates a very set of confusing navigation metaphors for the subscriber. So the simple notion is ask the phone what you want, either through voice or text inquiry, and you go find it. So if I put in Usher, what comes up is every video about Usher, every game about Usher, every wallpaper, every ringtone, every downloadable MP3 song that I can download from Usher in one simple request. I don't have to go to the ringtone storefront or the video section on the phone, which has a different icon on every carrier, a different label, different name, different brand. And I can find everything I care about very simply. And this is not web search from a phone. This is content search. The notion of finding things in the physical world from the phone are important. The notion of finding content for the phone is important, much more than finding internet data that happens to be on a website somewhere.
We talked about business models, and you talked about inflexibility of doing packaging and pricing. What's the panel's take on potentially having ad-based video or those kinds of models, which we've seen on the internet. Do you guys see that being feasible, and users actually having an uptake on a tiny little screen?
Let me jump in on that one, because there are a lot of business models out there. Some work, some don't work. As an example, a la carte isn't working for us that well in Europe, where these basically package bundled offerings like Vcast, where it's an affiliate fee-based service, work much better for us and work much better for consumers. But then really the next step for us is going to be the ad-based model, because we see carriers open to paying affiliate fees for top-tier content providers. Comedy Central is an example, which kills in mobile. So top tier 1 carriers will pay for that. Maybe some of the more niche content, like we have a game video service called GameTrailers.com. That makes much more sense to do as an ad-focused model. And it's a perfect scenario because you have people who are interested in games, they're watching videos about games and walkthroughs about games. Why don't you market a game to them? So as the content portfolio becomes broader, as content gets more niche, it makes much more sense for an ad model. The big hurdle and stumbling point there is going to be negotiating with the operators on how they get paid in that model. And you guys at Moby run into this all the time. There's a system now when we work with MSOs for local avails, and they get a certain amount of local avails, and that's worked out, and it's pretty consistent across the industry. There isn't with operators. So my hope is that that gets dealt with in a unified way, and we get through that quickly, as opposed to fighting over how much money we're going to make in 10 years, build a sustainable ad model, because we have advertisers kicking down the door to get into mobile. We don't have the number of views that we would have over broadband or over broadcast, but today Toyota comes to us and says, here's a $20 million ad buy for broadcast, and you better throw in mobile. I have no idea why I want it today, but we need to have it happen. And so we need to be able to service them and build that model.
How many people in the audience wouldn't mind watching video that's ad-based on the handset?
For free, right?
For free, yes.
Yeah. Well, my
correction.
On it, I think there's going to be some combination. I mean, I think it'll be used as a subsidy, just like it is in pay television today, and then there'll be some content that'll be just purely advertising based. We're already selling advertising, and it's a pretty good model for us, and we kick it back to the carriers so they feel involved.
It's kind of weird you mentioned the Toyota thing, because my company did this series of mobisodes with Toyota, on the movies. And what's so weird about it is that when we dealt with Toyota, they wanted to do it, but their agency who ended up producing the mobisodes and the TV ads, it was on TV for a couple weeks, decided to yank it. Just like that. And it's something they want to do. But again, Toyota is not quite sure how it wants to execute on this whole thing.
But this is a situation I'm familiar with. I think I know the one that you're talking about. And the issue there was that there is a debate as to how they split up the ad revenue. And the way that folks have gotten around it today have said, we'll give you this content for free to carriers, and then it's ad supported. They're paying for the production because there's no cash changing hands at that point. But that's not going to build a sustainable industry.
Yeah, we were on the Sprint deck, and
right.
We negotiated with Sprint so it would be on the base channel, so
right.
that every Sprint multimedia phone subscriber would have a data service, be able to access this stuff.
Right.
Okay, so and it's very strange because it gets back to what Paul said earlier about how he felt that Sprint was kind of heavy with regard to mobile video and all this other stuff. And he's correct, but then you got to kind of delve into the business models of the carriers themselves. And Sprint, for example, looks at itself as a product platform, where if you flip over to Verizon, it's move on to something else when, you know, we really have to, when we get pushed to the wall.
I think that was a very good summary and a very good experience of being pulled off of the ad model. So hopefully in the next year or so we see some changes coming out of that. You're not very optimistic about it, obviously.
The subscription thing, this whole thing has just started, and it gets back to they pour billions of dollars into 2.5 3G networks, and so subscriber-based premium service models are right now the order of the day. And now, are these guys going to move out of that in the next 12 to 18 months? I doubt it.
Okay. So that'll be a nice panel session next year if we actually see any dent in that model. Now, any video panel is not complete without the healthy debate of unicast versus broadcast. So we're going to start from Sanjay this time. Do you think that there is a need for a broadcast network in the US? Now, let's be more specific. And what is the driver that will actually get somebody to deploy that?
Well, is there a need? Sure. I mean, I think there's people want to watch different things at different times. And so, is there a need? Sure. Consumer will dictate the actual need. And as far, I'm sorry, what was the second part of the question?
Well, you know, what are the key drivers? Is this somebody just going to say build it and they'll come, or you think it'll be more, you know, driven by?
Well, there already is an element of that in terms of sort of professed plans. Will they come? Sure. I don't know. The key question is not will they come. It's when will they come and how many of them will come. And so I think those, from our perspective, obviously, you know, the more content out there and sort of, you know, it's irrelevant to us whether it's unicast or broadcast in terms of the guidance that we're going to have to deliver to them. But I think ultimately it is the value proposition you put out there. You know, I see, it's funny, coming out here, you read different research coming in. One says, you know, Clipcast is going to be great, you know, people only want a snack. Others say, you know, people only want to watch TV in sort of the regular sort of TV fashion. And I think the real answer is, you know, both are wrong and right. People want to do different things at different times in terms of the content they want to consume, both in terms of the genre, the length, you know, in terms of information versus entertainment. And so I think that really dictates the end product that you deliver to the consumer. And so just like everything in America, I want everything.
Glenn, you want to answer?
Yeah, we're seeing lots of demand for both. Fundamentally, you know, the broadcasters are getting in there with a more traditional broadcast business model. It's hard to look at the on-demand networks in the world today and say that broadcast is dead, right? I mean, broadcast TV, both cable and over the air, is by far the vast majority in the world. We see lots of both happening. Our technology is completely agnostic. We don't care. But from a market view perspective, we are seeing a huge investment in both unicast over the data network as well as broadcast technologies. There are, I don't know, a dozen different field trials going on for broadcast networks worldwide. Several are live today, as I mentioned. Unicast, because the data networks are there already, it's easier to get up and running, but the problem with unicast is as usage increases, your network starts to fail. And so your quality of experience is dependent on the number of people actually using the service. So there are massive trade-offs in both, so both will coexist.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say the same. I don't want to overly simplify the issue, but it really is an awareness issue. I mean, that example I gave earlier of my great aunt who was, you know, sold on VCast by Golden Girls on your phone. I mean, she's the same person who's, if you said to her, this is just like your TV, but it's on your phone, she would understand it. And she may not use a VOD-based service, she may not use a broadband service today. And so it's a really simple, easy way to explain what this is on your phone. And it's a shortcut. So I think that that's going to exist for those people, but then there are a lot of people out there who don't watch TV today. Most in our target demo, like kids on MTV or even Nickelodeon, who they're watching content asynchronously. You know, they're going to overdrive.com, which is MTV's broadband portal, and they're choosing the clips that they want to watch, organizing those into a playlist, clicking play, and watching those because they want to watch what they want to watch. The driver from the carrier perspective, and this is, you know, kind of me speaking outside of my expertise, is cost. I mean, that you can't have a multicast world on a cellular network. It just won't support it, and it's too expensive per megabyte. So unicast is a way to efficiently deliver that, and they need to offset a lot of this usage. I mean, if I don't want to give a specific operator, but if any of these operators had a huge amount of usage, like literally 20%, 30% of their base actually using these services, they would have problems with their network. So they need to offload this onto unicast, and we'll be there to provide content on both.
David, any addition?
Well, it is a cost issue. I think there's obviously a great use case for both multicast and unicast, and there are different experiences, and they both have to coexist. A tremendous number of people are just familiar with live TV, and that's a value proposition they understand, and there's going to be plenty of interactive video on demand models. I think the argument always gets linked to whether you need extraterrestrial towers or whether you're talking about format lengths, and the extra, multicast network is a cost issue, as Jeremy highlighted. The format length is a moot point, and people got to get over it. My daughter, as an example, has a video iPod, and once this user control capability is available on the phone, I think people will realize that format length will be decided by the subscriber, not by the creator of the content. So she downloaded 25 episodes of ABC Family's Wildfire. It's another excuse to have beefcakes and girls around a horse that's coming back to health. And so I guess it's Laguna Beach meets horses or something, I don't know. But she's riveted to this thing because she loves horses. But she doesn't care that those were conveniently created at 44 minutes for 60 minutes of commercial in the TV metaphor. She watches it 7 minutes and bookmarks it just like you and I write a book. She comes back to it during lunch, after school, in a ride on the car on the way to school or way home. And she watches it for 7 minutes, 3 minutes, 11 minutes.
They're getting cut off 5 minutes
So
or so.
I think format length will get reprogrammed by the subscriber.
Do I still get to answer my
You
favorite
get
question?
You get a second.
So our attitude is, kind of like the way I had presented. I mean, we see value in both. We tend to see that the broadcast being more of a traditional, old-fashioned way of delivering television, where I think some of the usage occasions that David was talking about are really what we see as the future of television. So.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, panelists. Thank you, everybody, for making it through lunch.